My name is Danielle Spratt. I am the director in our Office of Community Engagement, and this is my colleague and the person who has made community engagement possible, especially through the pandemic, Pamela.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pamela Palacios, the analyst in the Office of Community Engagement. Really looking forward to new and continued partnerships with you all.
So thanks everyone for being here today. There's a QR code here, and you'll see one other point, and that's just the link to our website if you haven't been to it already. And then we can share this as well, the PowerPoint, after we're done with our conversation today, so you have it as a resource in case it's helpful. What is CSUN's Office of Community Engagement? The Office of Community Engagement supports CSUN's mission to cultivate civic responsibility among students, faculty, and staff by facilitating community-based, or what was long called service learning. We're trying to move away from that term, but it tends to still be used very frequently in teaching circles, kind of more broadly. We like to think of it as community-based learning classes, promoting co-curricular engagement activities, implementing community-based research, and fostering equitable, reciprocal, and sustainable community partnerships and projects. And so that last part, that's where you all come in and make that possible and really make our office possible. Again, we're really excited to talk more about some of the resources that we can offer to you and to hear more about the resources that you need us to do or do better.
I can share a little bit about our mission here at the Office of Community Engagement. Based on the principles of reciprocity, civic responsibility, and democratic values, we seek to enrich scholarship and enhance the curriculum for students, faculty, and staff alike, create high-impact academic community-based service learning experiences, promote and sustain reciprocal community and academic partnerships between CSUN and the San Fernando Valley and greater LA areas, prepare, educated, engaged citizens to become lifelong civically minded learners and leaders. And then a little bit about what we do. We promote, encourage, support, report, and assess community-based service learning, offer grants, seed grants, $1,000 to $3,000 for pedagogical or research related activity, student scholars, travel support awards. We host an annual research and service symposium to feature all of the wonderful work done on campus and around our community. S4 database used to track community partnerships and student service all across campus. Develop and support community partner resource infrastructure needs, social media, grants, etc. It's just a little glimpse of what we do here. Additionally, we focus on internships, community-based research, volunteerism, events, programs engaging the community, annual community engagement research symposium, develop pilot projects based on community partner needs. Let's see, what is community-based service learning? You may have all seen this somewhere before. Community-based learning is collaboration between institutions of higher education and their larger communities for the mutually beneficial exchange of knowledge and resources in the context of partnership and reciprocity. It can involve partnerships and coalitions that help mobilize resources and influence systems and serve as catalysts for initiating and/or changing policies, programs, and practices.
What are the components of community-based learning? A lot of what we do, because we're affiliated with academic affairs, has to do with developing courses and curriculum and supporting faculty and students, but it's all partnered with and built on working with community partners. And so it's really exciting for us to hear what you're doing, what your needs are, how we can support them short-term and long-term to help develop these projects. In some ways, we serve as kind of like matchmakers between community partners and faculty, staff, and students who are doing different projects on campus. And then we're there to help support with those grants that we talked about. Those are for faculty and students, but community partners also receive grants as part of these partnerships. So we can talk more about them if you're interested in hearing more about them. Community-based learning integrates reciprocal and equitable partnerships with the community, with instruction and reflection to enrich the learning experience, teach civic responsibility, and strengthen communities. So we mentioned this at the beginning. We also support things like fieldwork and internships through our S4 database and through working with the various stakeholders involved in that. So if you're interested in those areas, we can certainly speak to those as well. But one of the things that we do and that we think really excitingly distinguishes community-based learning from those models, and Alejandra can speak more to this. Those of you who have taught here can, speak more to this or maybe took classes here as part of this too. What community-based learning does is integrate the things that are happening in the community with our community partners into the course content of the class. So it's very much blended and informs the readings that happen, the assignments that happen, the discussions. It's very holistic in its approach. And we can talk more about what that looks like as well in terms of like the spectrum of hours that students tend to serve. But in community-based learning, it tends to be 15 to 20 to up to 40 hours roughly. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's a little bit less, whereas internships tend to be 100 or more hours. And so as you're thinking about what are your kind of volunteer needs, your human resource needs, how would our students kind of fulfill that? You could think about that spectrum in terms of like, maybe you need like 2 really dedicated interns, or maybe having a team of like 10 students working on a project would help. And if you're not sure, we'd be here to help support that as well. But those are the sorts of questions some of the questions to think about. And this is some of the examples of how these things, it's integrating academic content with ongoing community experience. So usually in these areas, it's not a one-off volunteer opportunity. It's a sustained relationship that happens over weeks and months. Having students go out into the community or work in different ways with community partners. And then students do a lot of reflection. They write journal entries. They have written or like project-based assignments that help them process and think through what they've done and look at it analytically. And then there's usually an outcome or a deliverable, whether it's a project, a report, a presentation, something that the community partner has asked the student team to create or do at the end of that project. And then there's assessment. So student peer review, assessment from faculty, assessment from community partners, that sort of thing. How we support community partners, we're really interested in supporting project development. And that's if you have an idea or an ongoing project that would be perfect for community-based learning class or for internships or fieldwork, that's absolutely within our wheelhouse. We have in the past not done one-off events quite as often. We will refer people to the Matador Involvement Center, other student leadership models, but we're working really deliberately to figure out ways of taking immediate needs that community partners have, meeting those needs, and then using that as a catalyst to build longer-term relationships. So we're here to create those connections, be that hub between you and other groups on campus, faculty, students, student groups, other areas. We like to serve as liaisons with other campus groups and institutes. And then, as we've mentioned a couple of times, we maintain a database to feature projects and opportunities in need of student and faculty involvement. And we'll talk about how, if you don't have a partnership with us already, how to get started doing that. But I just wanted to give you some examples of the things that we do. So we help support, for instance, the CSUN Vita Clinic, one of the biggest, low-income tax preparation sites in the country. It's one of the oldest as well. And it involves not just the School of Business, but also the College of Humanities have, and one of our Office of Community Engagement alumni faculty directors, Svetlana Tiutina, who's here. She works with students to train them in translation services. And so her Spanish translation students come in and help support equitable communication. And then down here, there are some examples of our research and service symposium and other events that we've had where we invite faculty, students, community partners to come and share the work that they've done, learn about what each other are doing, and, have a moment to celebrate this great work that everybody's doing. So here are some traditional examples of community-based learning. This is faculty and students. We're working with the Institute for Sustainability and the Food Garden and invited local elementary school students to come and learn about plant growth and sustainability and that kind of thing. So it's a fun field trip for the students and, they're doing hands-on learning as well. Another example is this was another kind of climate-related initiative. So mapping trees across campus, not just to keep track of them, but also to map the carbon footprint of the university, which is increasingly important these days of climate crisis. Another example is students from biology and from our blended elementary school teaching program, we're learning how to be more effective science teachers, because that tended to be an area that was more difficult for a lot of our students to get trained in through this program called Tomorrow Scientists. And they paired up with local LAUSD schools to go in and give them real lab time, or to bring the students to campus where they could use some of our lab space and get experience using those tools. I also wanted to share a little bit more what I said before about kind of reciprocal responsive partnerships. So since the 90s, had support for community-based learning. To design a community-based learning class, or what used to be called a service learning class, is it usually takes 3 to 6 months to sort of go from initiating the partnership to starting and teaching the class. Sometimes it can be even longer. And so that deliberate planning is really important for a lot of community-based learning. And for some community partners, that works really well, and it sort of goes into the cycle of their work. For other partners, especially those who, especially since COVID, have been really under-resourced, additional volunteers or student capacity, that kind of thing, they've reached out to us in the past year and been like, we need something now, not a year from now. What can we do now? And so we have been lucky to have a core group of faculty, students, staff who have these areas of interest and expertise. And so these are some examples of community partners who reach out to us and said, like, we want something like in the next couple months, not a year from now or not 6 months from now. And so this was an event that we did with West Valley LA Public Library over in Reseda at their story time, where we helped support a celebration of the life of Dr. Martin Luther King and thinking about age-appropriate things like kindness and inclusivity and that kind of thing. We hosted a community orange grove cleanup. It's a beautiful site. People really love being there. Some of the participants from the story time ended up coming to this. You can't see it, but there was a kid here and a family and that kind of thing. It was very sweet. And then we're also really interested in supporting intergenerational and multi-generational opportunities. So these are 2 other examples of community partners who cold called, reached out to us and said, please help us design some programming. So this was a recent improv event that happened at a senior center. And this was a day of sort of STEM, literacy, climate education, honoring the life of Martin Luther King as well at Bertrand Elementary School. Students were doing some lab work about understanding living versus non-living things because they wanted some STEM enrichment activities. And then students over here were using arts and crafts to build shade structures on their campus or in their community to help think about climate and shade justice. So one of the things that we're really interested in emphasizing, sort of big picture conceptually in community-based learning and really just in partnerships in general, is being really mindful of place, thinking about the way that awareness of place and centering place as a form of this work and as a form of cultivating social justice more broadly is core to this kind of practice. So place-based community engagement is interested in co-creation, that reciprocal collaboration that we've talked about, and responsibility taking in community. So figuring out ways that our campus can be more responsible in the way that we support the work that our community partners do in all of the neighborhoods across LA, which are vast and really different and specific. As we're thinking about helping to develop projects, many of you probably already have projects that you are excited to share with us, but if you're thinking about how to develop some projects with our students or with our faculty. Faculty will often come out into the community and ask for partnerships, but we have lots of community partners who come to us and say, like, here are the things that we do, help us develop an idea. And that's what we're here for as well. So some of the questions that we start to ask are, tell us about your specific site location or locations. Tell us about your neighborhood, your understanding of your neighborhood, your community, the clients or the population that you serve. So how do you define place and community within your center, your nonprofit, that sort of thing. Now, I'd like to, again, some of you probably already have projects to share and talk about or other questions, But just since we're all convening here together, we can kind of collectively brainstorm a little bit. So what projects that are ongoing, that are new, or maybe that you'd like to revive since the last couple of years have been so difficult for everyone, what projects could use support from community engagement? What topics or issues are addressed through these projects? What are your dream areas of support for this project? What is working? What is in place for this project? What obstacles are you facing? And especially for those last two, how can we help amplify what's working? How can we support that even more? And how can we support and maybe help overcome some of those obstacles that you're facing? We have this database, and let me share what this looks like quickly. I'm assuming reshare. This is our S4 database. These are just examples of the many. It houses over 700 community partners. We're in the process of updating all of these. So if you know you're a partner already, you should have received an email or will soon receive an email from us asking to confirm your commitment to still being a partner with us and to hopefully update details so we can share new opportunities with our students, feature it in some of our communication, our newsletter, things like that. And it's also a way that students and faculty can use keyword searches to look through and find you specifically. Speaking, what can we help? What can we do to help you move forward? And then here's our contact information. The web page, again, there's a QR code that will link there as well. And then this is our contact information. We're looking forward to talking to you now, but please do follow up with us as well in terms of helping to develop and further amplify the partnerships that we have. That's where we are. I will leave this brainstorming thing up here for a second in case it's helpful, in case people want to talk through any of these points. But otherwise, we'd love to just open it up for questions. Happy to clarify anything. Just hear what you all are working on and how we can support it. Thank you, everyone.